Hi, this is Linda Nairn with Traveling Flamingo, and today we have a bunch of cruise news for you. Carnival is coming back. They've got lots of 2021 bookings, and their share price is actually rising, so that's great. There's also a new plan on how Carnival will be reopening, so all that and more coming right up.
So as Linda said, we've got a bunch of topics today. We're going to be talking about how Carnival's share price increased because of all the 2021 bookings. Carnival is also selling off some older ships. So there's about 13 ships that they've said that they're going to be selling off. There's also a new plan from Carnival on restarting AIDA cruise lines, which is going to be sailing out of Germany. And that's been helping to drive a bunch of 2021 bookings and 2020 bookings and help drive their share price. Also, we were looking into a bunch of the smaller cruise lines, like the American Cruise Line, which is a smaller cruise that just does US only cruises, so like up and down the Mississippi, stuff like that. And they seem to be having a bunch of problems restarting. They are actually below the 100 and the passenger
200.
the 200 passenger limits that the CDC set a no sail order for. So they're having issues, even though they're not governed by that. The Royal Caribbean's bought Silversea, which is a luxury cruise line. Additionally, the United Kingdom's come out, the British Foreign and Commonwealth Office advising people not to cruise, which is not something you necessarily want to hear. And lastly, we're going to give you a quick update on Disney Cruise Lines and their refund policy, because we were planning to rebook and we found out some interesting information. So we'll be touching on that too.
So let's start off with bookings. And as we said, there's some real promising for the 2021 bookings and cruising. A lot of the major cruise lines, spearheaded by Carnival, have seen a sharp increase in their share price this week as people are booking their cruises for 2021. So I think that's a really great sign. I mean, it is saying a lot of people are just skipping through 2020 because, like us, I'm a teacher. You know, we're done for the year, but we're already looking ahead at booking next year.
Yeah, there's a lot of 2021. You got to remember, you've got a lot of people who will already have future cruise credits, and so they're going to be wanting to spend those future cruise credits. You're also going to be having some discounts. We've noticed that there are some deals with a bunch of the cruise lines out there as well. And the cruise lines obviously want to get some of that revenue coming in. So they're trying to drive people into 2021 where it's probably seen as more of an acceptable time to reopen cruising. Mm-hmm. So they're really going quick. You know, we've been looking at a bunch of different cruises into 2021, and they're, getting to be limited number of cabins. Whether or not they've opened up all the cabins, we couldn't necessarily say. But, you can tell already that some of the cruise lines are being sold out. We looked at Virgin. A bunch of the cabins are already sold out for 2021 on Virgin. So there's a bunch of different cruise lines out there that are really selling up quick. So additionally, Carnival is selling off ships. Carnival announced that they're going to sell off 13 of their cruise ships. These will be older cruise ships, so they're not going to be selling off their latest and greatest, of course. These are going to be older ones. And there was a plan to get rid of these cruise ships over the course of a couple of years. They're just expediting that. And a lot of the reason for that is because it costs a lot to maintain these ships and to run these ships. So it's just easier for them to cut their loss, get rid of the cruise ship now. They did say the majority of these are not going to be scrapped. They're actually going to be sold and continue selling. So if any of you like some of these ships, they haven't really announced all of them yet, but if they get rid of one that you've always liked, it's still going to be available, but probably from other brands. In addition, there were 4 already announced ships that they were getting rid of. That's the Pacific Aria and the Pacific Dawn, and those are being moved over to cruise and maritime voyages. Also, the Costa Atlantica and the Costa Mediterranea were sold off to Carnival's joint partnership with the Chinese State Shipbuilding Corporation. So those 4 are in addition to the 13. This, though, does cover about 9% of a reduction in their fleet. So about 10% of their fleet reduced, which isn't too bad, and hopefully this allows them to free up some capital for, continuing operations and other things that they're going to be doing.
Yeah, I have to say, at first when I heard they were selling 13, I was, what's going on? But yeah, when you hear it is older ships, a lot of this was planned. It's just sort of that timing that cruising isn't back. There's still a lot of questions that sort of makes you wonder, but
yeah, so
it's not a big concern.
No, it's pretty good that they're getting rid of some of these older ships that they were going to get rid of anyways, and it'll free up money for them. And I guess they're not going to be using them in the short term anyways, so may as well sell them off.
So some good news in terms of restarting. Carnival is looking at a staggered restart for some of its cruises. AIDA Cruise Line, AIDA Cruise Line, which is a Carnival subsidiary, has announced that they're going to restart cruising out of Germany in August, which is great. That's only a few weeks away. So the idea is that the cruise will leave Germany, go out, no ports, and then come back. So it's something a little bit new, but I think for a lot of people, the cruise ship is the destination. For a lot of people, they have been self-isolating, so it may be nice to, yeah, get on a cruise ship, go away, enjoy everything that the cruise ship has to offer, and then come back. I think it's a very promising to hear, and they've suggested actually Italy may be another country that they'll be looking at doing this in. So again, very promising to hear that this idea of just leaving from a country, going out, and then coming back, what that will look like.
Yeah, we have a video about the recommendations that the European Union has for restarting cruising, and I guess they're going to conform to that. So feel free to check out that video. We'll put a link to it as well. And this is just a good sign of cruising at least restarting somewhere. It'll be great to have some of these regional brands starting to open up cruising and sort of testing the waters. So hopefully Carnival will actually start this in Canada as well. So feel free to open up the Quebec ports if you want. Maybe you go out from Quebec and back. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that he said is when people start doing those social gathering again, which is what they're seeing in Germany. So yeah, hopefully the Canada would be cool quickly before it's winter.
Yeah, exactly. And this is really because the COVID numbers in Germany have reduced so much. And this is something else that they talked about just knowing what markets they can open up. And they see Germany and then Italy. So it seems like good news in that respect. So another quick update, American Cruise Lines, which is a cruise line that's just in America, only goes to American ports. And they have small ships. So one of their ships is like 175 passengers or 175 people, and I think 60 of those are passengers. So they're fairly small. They're not under the no sail order from the CDC. However, they're having a lot of problems trying to get ports to open up. So they're trying to go to some ports in Maine, and Maine saying, we don't want you here. And it really kind of goes to show just the stigma that you're seeing when it comes to cruising. And that kind of rolls into another point on the British Foreign Commonwealth Office, who's come out and said, no more cruising. They don't recommend cruising. They don't recommend anybody go on a cruise, but they don't say why. And they don't really talk about the issues there. Like a lot of people will cite, like the Diamond Princess, or they'll cite other cruise ships that have had pandemics, which is true that some of them have, but I don't think they really give a full story as to as to the preparedness and the procedures that were in place for those cruise lines, because when all this happened, it was brand new, right? So I think there's still a stigma in terms of, oh, well, what if you go on a ship and there's an outbreak? The reality of it is, though, that they were just unprepared for it because it was a whole new thing. And, I think there's a lot of sort of stigma towards that. And I think it's very hard for the cruise line to get over that. And I think that's why you're seeing them sort of restart things very slowly, because, they don't want one cruise to spoil it for everybody.
Yeah. And having read through that recommendations by the EU, that cruise ship is going to be cleaner than my grocery store, than the pub up the road. Like, they are on it. They don't want an outbreak. They've got very strict guidelines and recommendations, and you're going to have to adhere to them. Same with Disney. If you can't wear a face mask, don't come. Like, that's what they've said. So with the cruise lines, if you don't like our policies for cruising safely, I wouldn't be surprised if they say don't cruise, because they really need to change that perception people have of cruising. I think it hit them hard when people were stuck on cruise ships, and the policy is going to set a lot of people's mind at ease. Not everyone's going to read that policy. Check out our video. But I think that as people do start cruising and come back and say, wow, like they were so on top of the cleaning, there was so much hand washing, like I felt really safe. And I think that those stories are going to have to start coming out.
I think too, the cruise lines keeping the ability to reschedule your cruise is really important, because so many people aren't necessarily going to pay for the health insurance because they're already paying so much on their cruise. I know a lot of people will, but a lot of people won't. And for those people, when they get ill, it's like, I gotta go, otherwise I'm gonna lose my cruise money. So allowing people to rebook their cruises, even though it might hurt the industry, a little bit financially, it's better than having somebody coming on a ship that shouldn't be on it. And then as we said, we have a video about what all those EU recommendations are. Something else the CEO of Carnival said was that they're gonna put the RT-PCR virus testing machines on their ships. So those are the swabs, so that they can diagnose people right there, right then on the ship, and then they can isolate them and deal with them as needed. And they also have to have agreements with ports and stuff for offloading of passengers or disembarkation of passengers who might be sick. So, I think it's going to take a while for people to understand just how much better the processes are going to be that are in place, to Linda's point. But hopefully things start up and people start seeing that soon.
So just a little personal story for us and anybody else who's looking at rebooking. So we had our Disney cruise booked for March. It was one of the first cruises that were canceled because of COVID-19. So we got 125% future cruise credit. We knew we wanted to do a Disney cruise. And at that time, we actually rebooked for August, thinking, hoping optimistically that we would be able to cruise in August.
And that's when the no sail orders and stuff had finished. So, theoretically they could have started up at that point.
Yes. So we'd rebooked. And the other week when they came out and said no cruising until, end of September, October, we got an email saying you'll get 25% of your cruise credit. Now, we did know that, we already got 125%, but we actually paid for a longer cruise because it was over the summer. We'd have a little bit extra time. And so we thought, okay, maybe we'll get the extra $2,000 we put in, maybe we'll get something on top of that, or they'll do something, right? Being that we had chosen to rebook with them rather than going with a new cruise line completely. And no, that's not what happened. So it's just on the original booking. It doesn't matter. You could book twice as expensive of a cruise. They're not giving you anything extra. So that's sort of interesting because we actually could have booked, Virgin's giving 200% future cruise credit.
Yeah.
You could have booked a Virgin cruise and then had 200% later. I mean, it's not about the future cruise credit. I just thought that Disney's is doing the 125%, that if you did have people who are showing, I'm willing to put more money in, or I can go for a longer cruise, or I'm willing to pay for upgrade, that you would have got maybe something.
Yeah, I think the assumption that we didn't expect to get 125% of the now 125% additional they gave us, but we assumed that the money we put in, they would give you 125% of, irregardless of the reservation. So if you, let's just say hypothetically, got a reservation originally for $3,000, they gave you 125% of that. We didn't think we would rebook and then get 125% on top of what was the 125% added to the 3,000. But we did assume that if you added another 3,000, you would get 125% on the 6,000 of the monies that you paid. Not on top of the additional 25% they gave you, but apparently not. It's just based on your original booking. So if your original booking was a $2,000 trip and then you booked another cruise for $6,000, you only get 125% on the original $2,000, which I thought was kind of weird. I assume they would have done it on total money put in, but it's not. It's just based on your original reservation. So just a tip there if you are expecting that. We will check if other cruise lines are doing it this way as well, but that's how Disney is doing it, which we were surprised at. And last little bit of news, Royal Caribbean has bought Silversea. And the reason why this is kind of important is that, originally Royal Caribbean owned 2/3 of Silversea, and another company owned the last third. However, they've decided to spend $145 million and put that towards purchasing Silversea. For those who don't know, it's an ultra luxury cruise line. It's got 10 ships and it does itineraries everywhere, Alaska, the Mediterranean, everywhere that you'd expect. And it's interesting just because obviously Royal Caribbean sort of doubling down on the cruise industry coming back, because you wouldn't really want to buy another cruise line if you weren't fairly confident in it coming back. And I guess they figured they could get a good price on it now because, Silversea's is so much smaller. We kind of talked about this in the comments of a previous video, just around how you're probably going to see a lot of consolidation in the cruise line industry right now because of this. And so you're probably going to see some of the smaller ones getting bought out by some of the larger ones. Maybe even some larger ones merge, but you're probably going to be seeing this soon, just because it's either A, a good time to buy a small cruise line, or B, the fact is that some of these small ones just can't survive, and so they can buy them up at a good price. So it does go to show, though, that there's confidence in it, because Royal Caribbean was out there trying to get a bunch of money as well, just like Norwegian, and to invest it in another cruise line shows that their confidence is probably going to come back.
So what did you think of the cruise news update? Are you going to be booking for 2021? Are you going to be skipping right ahead to 2022? Have you just decided you're done with the cruise line industry for a little bit until things settle out? What do you think of UK saying don't get on cruise ships? So please let us know in the comments down below. We love hearing your guys' opinions, and we do thank you for watching. We hope that you enjoyed it, and happy travels.